Another Dooley Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. All right, welcome into another Dooley Noted Podcast, of course, presented by Titan MRI. I actually saw Joe Calorio's wife and son and I think daughter and somebody else at the game last night. But of course, Joe was working as always, trying to get all those MRIs done, and we know he's a tireless worker. And of course, we are coming to you from the Shackau Mercandane Studios. We appreciate them for being a big part of this show. A lot to talk about today. We got a great guest, as always. We always have great guests, as you know. Today, Tony Barnhart will join us, of course, from the SEC Network and TMG Sports, which is stands for the media guys. Some of the older guys that basically took buyouts, and then they said, hey, let's try something like this. So I guess that's what I should be doing. I'm doing other things, though. So Tony Barnhart will be here today. Monday, we got a great show for you. Monday's show will be Noah Brindise and Doug Johnson together talking about that great 97 Florida FSU game. I figure since it's FSU week, what a great time to do that. So that'll be fun. And then we'll do the Friday show. We're actually going to tape it early because of the holidays and everything, but we'll show it on Friday just so you know that when I'm not talking about a game that happened Thursday, that's why I can't do that unless I could see into the future. I don't think I can, though. So on Friday, Mike Huguenin from On3 Sports will join us. We've had him on before. He's great. My former boss at the Gainesville Sun. He knows the Gators very well. So I will talk to him about that and some other stuff. All right. So we're going to talk a little football, and then we're going to talk a little basketball. As I mentioned, I was at the game last night and enjoyed it very much. Although I did pull the thing that I always got on Gator fans about, which was, I'm leaving. I'm leaving early. Now, my complaint about people leaving early was leaving early in a one-point game. I don't get the point of coming if you're going to leave early. Just watch it on TV. But anyway, I did leave early last night. They had things in hand. And it's funny because right when I got home, the game ended. So it was perfect. All right. But let's start out. Again, we've talked about this before. The engine is run by football. It is what matters the most, and so we're going to talk about that again today. It's like the fuel is football. The oil is kind of basketball. But if you don't have any oil, you probably can run the car for a while. You can't run it without fuel. Okay, so you got to go with the fuel. All right. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say this out loud, and if you get mad at me or upset with me, or you say, yeah, you're right, whatever, you know me, I'm always going to share my opinion. I don't see a path to Florida winning this game Saturday. And here's the reason why. It's a very simple reason. You could say, well, here's the path. Missouri ranks next to last in the country in rushing defense. Okay. I've seen teams that were really bad against the run who all of a sudden got good when they played Florida. But the biggest reason for me is that Tyler Batty, who is leading the SEC and fourth in the nation in rushing, he's also got 50 catches. So think about that. He has 250 touches this year already. Okay? And he doesn't get tired, but he is a tough running back. He's short, but he's very tough. Tough to find, especially when they throw that screen to him. And I don't believe Florida wants to tackle him, especially those guys in the secondary. I don't think they want to tackle him. I don't think they're willing to go in there and put their face right in his numbers and knock him down and make a tackle. And that is the biggest problem that I think Florida's had this year. Still, second year in a row. Last year it was because of COVID, right? Oh, we can't take a risk on hitting in practice. Okay, well, I guess they may not be hitting again this year. I don't know what they're doing. All I know is nobody in the secondary wants to tackle anybody. I remember the years of great tacklers back there. Great hitters and great tacklers. Not just great hitters, but guys that would not let you go. They would hold on by your shoelace so you could not get away if they had to. I mean, the great hitters, Lewis Oliver, Tony Lilly, obviously they were two of the biggest. Reggie Nelson wasn't that big, but he hit and he tackled. That's what you do when you get back there. But these guys don't want to tackle, and that's why I don't see a path to win. Look, they're probably going to get in some kind of shootout, and when they get into a shootout, as we've seen, the problem with this team is they find different ways to screw it up. And that is something I was talking to somebody about last night, is how, Dan Mullen said this last year at the end of the year, there wasn't one thing that was going wrong with the defense. And again, they gave up, 35, was it 35 to LSU, 30, maybe 39, 37, something like that. I've tried to get that game out of my mind. 52 to Alabama, and then, 55? No, it might even been more than that, to Oklahoma. Anyway, okay, so that was the defense last year to finish off the season. This defense was supposed to be better, and there were times when it did look better. They were pretty good against Kentucky. They were pretty good against Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt, come on. And they were good in the second half against Tennessee. I mean, it was 17-14 at the half, but then Florida destroyed them in the second half because the defense played better. And they were better in the second half of this game. And they were really good for all but the last 2 minutes of the Georgia game in the first half. They were really good on defense. But they've been so bad. And it all goes back to the South Carolina. That South Carolina game changed everything. Everything. The South Carolina game was where you weren't worried about the Gidiots. The Gidiots are the people that want you fired when you only win by so many points, or when you only win the East and don't win a SEC championship. But that's when it went from just being Gidiots to being everybody. Everybody's like, I don't know if I want this guy to be my coach anymore. And then I'm just talking about the fan base. But it changed it for Dan Mullen, and the way he looked at it, I guarantee it changed the way Scott Strickland looked at his team. So that's the deal. I mean, that game changed everything. It changed the way we look at these guys. It changed the way whether we can appreciate anything. And that was the game that did it. It wasn't the LSU game. The LSU game was bad, man. It was a bad day. Bad. South Carolina game was the worst. I've been thinking, and I wanted to get separated from it a little bit because with when you're right on top of the game, you're 2 days out or whatever, the way you feel about it is different than the way you'll feel about it 2 weeks later and certainly 2 years later. Well, it's been 2 weeks, and now, South Carolina was worse. The only thing that bothered me more about the LSU game was that LSU, there was still something to play for then. You still had a chance, remote chance, to win your division. But, that was bad, but South Carolina was worse. So now we'll see what happens. Now, look, I'm a big believer in this, and I don't see the point of me coming out and calling for a coach to ever get fired. I just write, in my days as a columnist, I would write when I said this coach is going to get fired. And it's probably a good idea. And I was dead right with Ron Zook, and I was dead right with Will Muschamp, and I was dead right with Jim McElwain. I remember writing it from after the Georgia game. Yeah, he's probably gone. But with Mullen, I kind of go back and forth a lot. I talk about maybe he deserves at least 1 year recruiting to that new building. The building that they're spending king's ransom on. If you fire him, aren't you just starting all over again? And I'm not sure that's a great idea. And that's, Florida is kind of, if they do this, and I don't know that they will, but if they do this, they're kind of becoming very Tennessee and Texas-like. And by that I mean they're serial
Recording in progress.
Hirers. Is that the right word? Hirers? Serial employers or whatever. They just keep going from one to the next, and they go, you eat your peas one at a time. You know, we can't be a part of you. Or what was the one? The masseuse wouldn't give Jerry a massage. I remember that. That was his big complaint with her. And the one girl, he was afraid that her toothbrush had gone in the toilet, so he got rid of her. But I mean, that's what you're doing. You're looking and you're seeing something. You go, nope, that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is this perfect woman or man who has all these great things going with him, great things about him or her, and there's no flaws. Those people aren't out there. Those coaches aren't out there, let alone the people. So, what will happen? I've been saying this all along, that I think if he loses either one of these two games, I think he's gone. There is a lot of speculation that Scott Strickland has already made his decision. And I don't know that he has, and I don't know because I did talk to him the other day, and I didn't really get anything out of it. But I mean, it's tough for him. It's not a good time for him. I know he doesn't want to fire Dan Mullen. Uprooted that family and brought him out here, brought him to Gainesville, But I think if they lose either one of these last two games, and I think they are losing, I'm this close to guaranteeing it that they're going to lose to Missouri. And I don't think it'll happen after the game because Dennis Dodd, I know, wrote this week, and I think he's dead on about this, that, and I'm sure he got this from Scott Strickland, but that they're not going to make it a firing until after the season. And I agree with that. If you're not going to fire him today, and I don't think you should, all right, so the Missouri game comes up and you lose that game. Now you're going to fire him that Sunday, and you're going to have the seniors go to senior day without their head coach, try to get into bowl eligible to go to a bowl without their head coach. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I would agree with that. You got to coach through the FSU game, and you got to coach with it as if you're coaching for your job. And he is coaching for his job. I don't think there's much question. Look, if Dan Mullen could go 0-2 in these games and get away with it, they would probably make some kind of announcement or something. That's not the case. I think I think Scott and I think the big boosters, the money boosters, I think a lot of people want to just sit and watch these two games and go, okay, is it getting better? These aren't great teams they're playing. If you're in tough games with them, that's not good. And if you lose them and you end up going 5-7, that's really not good. That's when you really have a problem, okay? And that's not what you want to see. All right, I did say I was going to talk about basketball. And by the way, actually, I'm going to talk about basketball on the other side once we get to have Tony on, because I have a lot I want to say about basketball, which was great the other night, by the way. But I did want to point this out. Somebody said that that they are 10-point. Florida's a 10-point favorite. Opens a 10-point favorite, and then went. Now it's at 8.5, and they're like, "Well, the Vegas guys know something." And I'm like, "No, they don't. They know how to make you. They know how to make you gamble. That's what they do. They know how to make you gamble, and how to make you bet money. That's all they know how to do. They don't know who's winning or losing the games. They're not trying to figure it out. They're just trying to figure out what spread will make you want to bet on it. And if they know so much, how can they have been wrong about every road game for Florida this year? It was bad when they went to LSU. They were 12-point favorites in that game, 20-point favorites going to South Carolina, and then I think they were 9 going to Kentucky. Now they're 8.5. They don't know anything, and I don't either sometimes. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back with Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart. Can't wait to talk to him. Maybe he knows what's going on down here, but we'll talk to him about all the things going on in the Southeastern Conference, of course, from the SEC Network and TMG College Sports. We'll be back with him right after this break. You're listening to or watching Another Dooley Noted Podcast.
Car accidents, trucking accidents,
motorcycle accidents, and wrongful death. If injured or killed by the negligence of others, who will fight for the compensation you deserve? Shackow and Mercadante, 5 lawyers, more than 100 years of combined legal experience, millions in settlements and verdicts. Call Shackow and Mercadante, 371-3000. Rebuilding lives.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Hey, this is Pat Dooley for the Gainesville Quarterback Club, and they are having a trial membership here at the end of the season. It's really a great deal. We talked about them doing it at the beginning of the season, and what they're doing is they're offering the next 3 meetings for $100. And believe me, you get a full meal out of this, too, for every one of these meetings. It's great speakers. The meeting dates for this are November 9th, 16th, and 23rd as we wrap up this college football season. Anyone interested in taking advantage of this trial membership can RSVP the membership leader at bob.bagley@pauldavis.com. Or you can just pay at the door.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it. Okay, and welcome back to another Duly Noted Podcast, of course, presented by Titan MRI from the Shackow and Mercadante studios. We'll get to all the 3 things, and Adam's Rib Co. To Go Gator of the Week, and Hester and Kepke Games of the Week, this, that, and the other, all that stuff coming up in our final segment. Right now, we're going to go talk to a legend, Mr. College Football, of course, Tony Barnhart, who, of course, writes and broadcasts for the SEC Network, also for TMG Sports Network, and it's a great pleasure to bring him on here and talk to the great one. How are you, Tony?
Julie, I'm doing really well. So it looks like you got a nice setup there at Spurrier's place. That's great.
We do. He treats us well here. We know our own little room, and every once in a while we get and the only beer I'll drink here is a 5220 beer that was made just for Steve Spurrier, and it's also the score of the FSU game. So that's the only beer I'll drink here. It's a kind of a rule of thumb of mine.
Only he would think of that. Yeah, that's good. Yep, 5220.
Yep, exactly. And there is a this, that, and the other entree here. Yeah, so that's great stuff. Hey, Tony, look, I mean, you're looking at this from the outside, but you know a lot of people and you talk to a lot of people and you watch a lot of sports. But can you make heads or sense of what has happened down here in the last 11 months?
Well, I don't know if I can address the last 11 months, but what I have seen in the last 3 weeks is concerning. I mean, yeah, okay. So I was concerned when Florida lost to LSU, and LSU ran the same place 795 times, and nothing ever changed. I was concerned when, all right, they lost to Georgia. Georgia's pretty good. They made a bunch of mistakes in a 2-minute period right before the end of the first half, and never could recover from that. Okay, those things happen. But then you go to South Carolina, and you don't just lose to South Carolina. You get embarrassed by South Carolina. And then you come home against an FCS team and give up 9,000 yards and 52 points. And things just don't appear right. And so from an outsider looking in, obviously you knew the change was going to be made with Grantham at defense. You knew that was coming. The question now is what happens next? And I guess the scores of the next 2 weeks will answer that question.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's playing for coaching for his job. But the thing that people keep coming back to is, well, who's out there? Who could we go get? And I'm like, there's not any, like big name that I can get you. Anybody they hire would be a hard sell right now. And would they really be that much better than Dan Mullen, the coach? Although Dan Mullen, the recruiter, is lacking desperately. Mm-hmm. Dan Mullen, the coach, is still a pretty good coach.
Right. And to me, that, the thing about Scott Strickland is a first-rate athletic director. He's not a bomb thrower. He's very measured about making decisions. And that's why it's going to be a tough decision. If it was just a decision about Dan Mullen's ability to coach football, it's a very short conversation because he's one of the very best at what he does. But then you got to raise questions about, well, what's the issue? Is it recruiting? Certainly a factor. What else is involved? And figure out what else. When you figure out what else is involved, you got to talk to a lot of people, and then you decide, okay, there are things that need to be fixed. Is Dan Mullen the guy to fix it? And that's what it ultimately comes down to.
I've told this story on the radio yesterday when I went to see Spurrier up at Washington right after he got the job to do a big story on him. And he treated me like a king, and the Redskins were like, "What? Nobody ever gets to walk around here, but why is this sports writer walking around here?" Mm-hmm. So eventually he introduces me, takes me into Marvin Lewis's office. Marvin Lewis was his DC, and he says, "Hey, take care of our local guy here." I'm like, "Well, first of all, we're in Washington now, but Marvin Lewis, I'll never forget this. We talked, and then he brought out a binder, and it was a thick binder full of everything he wanted to do when he became a head coach, of how he would do things, okay? And I thought that was brilliant, And that's what I think Dan Mullen needs to walk into Scott Strickland with, a binder of some sorts with a plan to fix the problem.
You got to have a plan. You got to have a plan. Well, and part of that plan, Pat, is what we just said, identifying what's wrong, okay? Yeah. Is recruiting an issue? Yeah, we got to have a conversation about recruiting. But what else? What else do we need to examine? And I agree with you. You got to figure out what the problem is. The first rule about getting out of a hole is you stop digging. All right. So you got to do that, and then say, okay. And Dan Mullen's got to show his plan to Scott Strickland to fix what's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's switch gears over to the Dogs, who are, of course, just rolling through teams. Been very impressive. I've said this many times on this show. They picked a good year to have their best team because there's not a second best team out there. So this right. is a good year to be really, really good, which they really are the only team that's that. Like, do you see any of this stuff that's going on, the Adam Anderson stuff especially, having any effect on this team? I mean, they just plug guys in there, I know, but you still lose a teammate like that.
Yeah, I mean, very talented player, but obviously he is dealing with much bigger issues than college football. But the answer to your question is no, I don't think it will have an impact on him because they have recruited very well. a very deep team. They're able to roll in a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball. This is I talked to Coach Vince Dooley a couple of weeks ago, and he's very, very impressed with this Georgia team, and said he had some great defenses when they had that great run in the early 1980s. He said, but the thing is different. This Georgia team can go 7, 8, 9 deep in quality defensive linemen, and that is a rare luxury in the SEC.
Yep. You know, I speaking of Vince Dooley, I liken this team to the 1980 team. You know, that their quarterback didn't have to be great, but he was just always good enough. And then their defense kind of took things over with, I guess, was Scott Warner on that team?
Scott Warner was on that team. Frank Ross, great linebacker. Jimmy Payne. There were a lot of great players on that defense. And you're right. The quarterback didn't have to be great because he had a great defense and he had number 34 to hand the ball to. And that helped a lot.
That does make life easier. Of course, we're trying to get Damian Pierce up to 10 carries in a game, but I guess that 7.8 rushing yards per attempt doesn't stand out to the coaching staff here. But well, look, we'll see what happens with there. And obviously, I think we're all really kind of getting fired up for Georgia, Alabama, because, I mean, it's Saban. You know, Saban will have an answer for that defense. It may not be the right answer, though.
Right. And I talked to a bunch of Georgia people in Jacksonville, and they all came up and they asked me two questions. One, what about the quarterback situation? Stetson Bennett the fourth. And what about Alabama? Because they said, you know darn well, Tony, Alabama looks human at times this year, but you know darn well they're going to play their best game of the season against us. They said. I said, you're probably right. Saban will come up with something, and he doesn't have as much talent as he had last year, but that's an impossible bar to set. This is still a very, very good Alabama team that when they play really well is really hard to beat.
You know, it's interesting because I think Kirby Smart's a lock for Coach of the Year in the SEC and maybe in the nation. And it's not just because he's got this great dominant team. It's the way he's handled the quarterback situation, which I know there's Georgia fans that are still a little worried about Stetson Bennett, but he's handled this situation so well. And the other thing I've seen out of him, Tony, I don't know if you agree with me on this. I think Kirby's become a better coach because he knows you can't score. So we'll go for it on 4th and 5 and throw it over the top because you're not scoring anyway. It doesn't matter.
No, and they have done an incredible job with that offense. Bennett does everything you need a quarterback to do. He throws it to the right person. He can make first downs and move the chains with his legs. He can do all those things. And Monken, the offensive coordinator, has used him just perfectly. And Georgia's got one of the deepest running back rooms in the country, and they run the ball well. And the receivers are starting to come along. So yeah, it's a good team, but the Georgia Alabama game has a chance to be epic.
Epic, yeah, absolutely. And probably a 50-50 crowd, too, because both of them expected to be there. So they bought those tickets a long time ago. Obviously, it's been an interesting situation with all the coaches getting fired. I think we've set a record this year for in-season firings. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with the early signing period. Go ahead and get started on that. But you start hearing names. I mean, obviously, Mel Tucker taken out of the mix by Michigan State. They said, no, you can't have him. We're going to give a coach who's had one good season $1 billion, so which is a lot. And but he's taken out of the mix. And now I keep hearing this Lane Kiffin to LSU rumor.
Yeah.
It seems to be picking up steam.
Yeah, it does seem to pick up speed. Either that or the Oklahoma coach going to LSU, and they're paying him some unbelievable amount of money. But that's what Scott Woodward, the AD at LSU, has a reputation of doing. He wants to make a splash. And Lincoln Riley would certainly be a splash if he left Oklahoma and went to LSU. Lincoln could be saying, well, hey, I'm coaching in the SEC anyway, so I might as well go to LSU. But wouldn't this be neat, Pat? Lane Kiffin goes to LSU, and then Kiffin turns around and convinces Spencer Rattler to leave Oklahoma and come to LSU. How much fun would that be?
And then like maybe the third game in a couple of years would be LSU at Oklahoma or something like that. We could work that out. We can get that schedule done. I mean, they've done that in the past, but it's going to be interesting with that LSU job. And when I think about that job, and it's a really good job, but there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot in the culture that you've got to get used to. And there's a lot of people think Lane Kiffin may end up going to Miami because he wants to live in South Florida. So nobody seems to think he's staying at Ole Miss.
Well, Ole Miss is a great place to be, and there's a lot of support there. The question is, can you win a national championship there? Now, if you keep getting great players like Matt Corral and people like that, you can certainly compete for it. But you just have the feeling that Lane Kiffin's got another couple of moves left in him. And the Miami thing is the one that I can't figure out because, to be honest with you, I'm not convinced that Miami's a better job than Ole Miss.
I don't think it is. Yeah,
I just don't think it's a better job. And if there's one thing we've learned this year, Pat, is there may be a lot of reasons that you lose a coach, but people have made up their mind that money ain't going to be one of them.
Yeah.
Nobody's leaving because the team they're leaving wouldn't match the money.
And in a way, this is something that's kind of evolved because as something that the leagues have caused. Because with all the money they keep giving these schools, they're going to go, yeah, that's good buyout money. Thank you very much. So It's a lot easier if you're in the SEC or the Big Ten, especially just to say, we got that money. That's chump change to get rid of you. It's crazy, though.
It all started last year with Tommy Tuberville when they gave him $21 million just to go away.
Yeah,
my goodness.
They did. It's incredible. Well, we always appreciate your time, Tony. And have you been able to get to any games this year? I have not. I've chosen not to.
I didn't go to any games last season. None. Right. For obvious reasons. This year I've been to a couple of games in Athens. I watched Georgia play Kentucky and Georgia play Arkansas. Went to Jacksonville because my boys were down there, so we went to that game, and I am going to the SEC championship game and the playoffs, both rounds of the playoffs. So that will be enough. That will be enough for me.
Well, I will say this in my retirement from newspapers anyway. The one thing I miss is bowl weeks and the NCAA basketball tournament. Those are things that you don't mind working hard. You don't mind what you have to go through. But so enjoy that. I mean, that's great. I do miss that SEC championship game. I mean, that's fun to go to.
It's just a great atmosphere, you and I were there for some of the very best games. The two Florida-Alabama games in 08 and 09 was as good as it gets. I think this game coming up is going to be like those games.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tony, thanks so much for joining us, Mr. College Football. It's been a great pleasure to have you on Zoom and to see you. Good to see you again.
All right, Pat. You take care of yourself.
Okay, buddy. Thanks a lot. Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football from the SEC Network and from, I got something in mind, TMG College Sports. That website as well does a great job and been a longtime friend of mine. Appreciate him coming on. I tell you what we'll do. Let's go ahead and go. Can you get the three things up, or do you want me to go somewhere else? We got to do three things because we got a lot of stuff to get to on the other side of the other break. So, three things are always presented to you by Hand Law, and we know that Hand Law. We love Mr. Chris up at Hand Law too. Very much. All right, three things is presented by Hand Law, a Florida law firm which helps clients with government. You can learn more about Hand Law by visiting its website, www.hand.law. The firm is available for consultation in Jacksonville. All right. Thanks again to Chris for all the stuff he does. And thanks to all our sponsors, man. We appreciate them so much. Titan MRI, Shackle Mercandani Studios. It's cool. I appreciate all you guys, man. You've made this, like when I started doing this show, what number are we on now, Evan? 90, 95. Well, it's hard to believe we've done 95 shows. But when we started doing this show, I got to admit, I was kind of grousing around. I don't want to do this anymore. It's too hard. I got to get all these guests. And now I've kind of slipped into a comfort level where I really enjoy coming here. I look forward to coming in here and finding really cool guests. So, and my wife doesn't have to listen to me bitch anymore. And I won't. All right, here's 3 things presented by Hand Law. Let's start with bowl eligibility. Now, we all know that Florida needs to win 1 game in the last 2 to get bowl eligible. So I started thinking, well, is that a guarantee to get into a bowl, just being bowl eligible? Because if there's too many not enough bowls and too many bowl teams, no, not going to work, not going to happen. But, look, it's Florida. Florida's still a great brand, a huge brand. There is no doubt that, to me, that a 6-6 Florida team gets into a bowl game, even if they fire the coach. Even if it is an interim coach, they will still they will bring him in. They'll go to the Gasparilla Bowl or something. But I was curious because I wanted to look this up. There are 8 SEC teams right now that are bowl eligible, which is a pretty good number. And there are 4 with 5 wins, including Florida. So there is a chance that they could get as many as 12 teams bowl eligible out of the 14. And that's what happened because this year we went back to playing the softies. You know, you get the 3 automatic wins, which Florida wasn't so sure that Stanford was an automatic win at halftime of that game. So 6 of those are from the West, though. And the West is really it's really stepping on the East's throat this year. And the funny thing is, everybody knows the West is better than the East. There was a time when the East was better than the West. But that was when Tennessee was good. This year, we've seen what's happened. There was only about 3 years ago that the East actually won more games against the West and vice versa. But nobody wanted to talk about that. But then the West dominates and they want to talk about it. But we all know that right now, there's no doubt. The SEC East has 1 really good team, the best team in the country, and then a bunch of pretty much scrubs. Kentucky's got 7 wins, but they lost 3 in a row. I mean, there's no other great team or even really, really good team. There are a lot of good teams and some very average teams. Florida being one of those average teams for their standard below average. But I did look it up. I calculated it today. The SEC West right now is 8-3 against the East. That's really bad. It doesn't help that Florida went 0-2. And the other thing is, there's the 3 games left. This weekend you've got Auburn at South Carolina, Vandy at Ole Miss. That's not going to go well. In fact, I don't think either one of those. So that's probably going to be 10-3, and then Missouri at Arkansas, and I think Arkansas will win that game, and it'll be 11-3. And I think that might be the worst beating that the East has ever taken. Anyway, the East is bad this year, and Florida still mucked it up. So that's not good. That's not good at all. Number 2 on 3 things, brought to you by Hand Law from the Shackle Mercandani Studios. The baseball awards, I don't know. I don't get baseball, why they wait so long to give their awards out. It seems like 2 months ago the Braves won the World Series. And they just announcing, like, Rookie of the Year and all that stuff. And, of course, Jonathan India, hats off to him for winning that. But they announced the MVPs, and it was Ohtani, who was a unanimous in the American League, and then Bryce Harper. And I'm like, Bryce Harper, really? Well, I don't study baseball. I don't pay that much attention to baseball that's not the Braves in the playoffs, okay? And I thought Bryce Harper wasn't that good. Now I looked at his stats, and he probably should have been the MVP. But every time he was up, he usually made it out when it mattered. That's what I saw. But again, I didn't see it. But you look at his numbers, they're pretty good. Baseball, though, I don't know why they drag it out. Why don't you announce it on the day of the Super Bowl? Crazy. All right, and finally, number 3, want to send special shout out to Dick Vitale. Dick has been undergoing chemotherapy treatments for lymphoma and melanoma, and I know a lot of people have reached out to him, and he's appreciated. I reached out to him, and he responded right away. I've known Dick very well for a long time, and we were going to have him on this podcast, and then all of a sudden this hit, so that was not good. And down the road we will. The good news is he is going to be back. I know there's some of you that don't like Dick Vitale and some of you that love him. But Dick is Dick, and as you know, I like him very much. One of my favorite people in the world. And he always gives a shout out to the local media too. I read the column by Pat Dooley today. It was awesome, baby. He'll say that on the national thing, and you go, oh, that was nice. Anyway, he will be. He's got a game Tuesday night. He is going to be back on courtside. I'm sure he'll have a mask on for part of it. So he got a clean bill of health, or at least he got cleared by the doctors. And that game will be unbelievable. I didn't even know this was coming up. Gonzaga and UCLA, 1 versus 2. What happened? Where did UCLA get so good? I don't know. That kind of snuck up on me. I know Gonzaga's good. So 43rd year of broadcasting for Dick Vitale. It's pretty amazing stuff. I was watching Blue Chips the other day, and I forgot that Dick had this cameo in it. He's going on and on. I wonder how many takes that took. If we get him on, we'll get him on the podcast eventually, okay? I want to make sure he's comfortable and with everything he's dealing with. But we'll get him on. That's one question I want to ask him. How many takes do you have to do that whole segment? Because it's a long segment. Anyway. All right, so that's going to do it for 3 things presented by Handlaw here on Another Dooley Noted Podcast, presented by Titan MRI from the Shakow and Mercandani Studios. We have a lot to get to still. Adam's Rib Co. to go. Gator of the Week. You guys all killed it. I gave you a freebie in the first Leonardo's Quick Picks, and you all took advantage of it. So a bunch of you qualified. But the Leonardo's and Millhopper Quick Picks will be coming up. Gator themed this week. And then Hesser and Kipke Games of the Week, and this, that, and the other, our favorite. So we'll come back with all that, and who knows. Oh, and I'm going to talk about basketball. I'll start this segment by talking about basketball. We'll be right back. You're watching or listening to Another Dooley Noted Podcast here, live from the Shakow and Mercandani Studios.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Car accidents, trucking accidents, motorcycle accidents, and wrongful death. If injured or killed by the negligence of others, who will fight for the compensation you deserve? Shakow and Mercadante, 5 lawyers, more than 100 years of combined legal experience, millions in settlements and verdicts. Call Shakow and Mercadante, 371-3000. Rebuilding lives.
Another Duly Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam's Rib Co. to go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. to go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Hey, this is Pat Dooley for the Gainesville Quarterback Club, and they are having a trial membership here at the end of the season. It's really a great deal. We've talked about them doing it at the beginning of the season, and what they're doing is they're offering the next 3 meetings for $100. And believe me, you get a full meal out of this, too, for every one of these meetings. It's great speakers. The meeting dates for this are November 9th, 16th, and 23rd as we wrap up this college football season. Anyone interested in taking advantage of this trial membership can RSVP the membership leader at bob.bagley@pauldavis.com, or you can just pay at the door. Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Shaq Allen Mercandone Studios. I mentioned I was going to talk about basketball. I went to the game last night. I actually sat by myself. My wife worked way too late. She worked so hard. Poor thing. Especially with me semi-retired. But I went to the game, sat by myself for the first half. Second half, I went down and sat in the media seats. They didn't stop me. And sat next to Mark Long. We talked a little bit. But anyway, I was like, I went to that game going, hey, look, this team has a great player, Patrick Baldwin, who's a first-round draft pick in the NBA probably. And they get some other players that can score. And let's see how the Gators handle prosperity. And that's not been something that they've done well at in the past under Mike White. So let's see what happens here. And then I started looking at the box score from the last game that Wisconsin-Milwaukee played, and they were down 26 to Eastern Kentucky. I went, Florida's probably going to be okay. But this will all be about Florida. It'll be about what Florida is willing to do. Are they willing to work as hard as they did last week in the FSU game? Are they willing to take good shots? And I was pleasantly surprised. Not only did Florida blow them out, they had a 32-4 run. But you could tell these guys, this is different. This team is different than what we've seen over the last few years. Doesn't mean they're going to go far. Doesn't mean they're going to do anything special because the SEC is brutal. And their schedule's tough. But the SEC is really going to be tough this year. We'll see how far they go. But, as long as you try to put together the best team you can possibly put together and they all play hard, I'm fine with it, I mean, we all know how hard it is to win a national title in basketball at Florida where the fans don't even show up for the games. The crowd last night was terrible. And, I mean, look, I get it, 6 o'clock game on a weekday night. A lot of people have to work, and they're not going to go, let me race over there right as soon as the horn sounds. And get over there. So I get why there was nobody at the game. When I say nobody, the Rowdies are there in full force. Of course, my daughter Kelsey being one of them. But, it was a really small crowd. And that's what I'm saying. Okay, Kentucky, Kansas, places like that, they fill it up. They'll fill it up for a game like that. They don't care. Doesn't make it any easier to win a national title. How many has John Calipari won? One. He had generational talent all over the floor, and he's won one. It's hard to win them. So all I'm saying is, when I watch Florida basketball, all I want them to do is play hard, and I hope that Mike White is doing a good job coaching them, and they put together a team that can compete, and then they do compete. That's all. Have a game. It's disappointing when you lose, happy when you win. But we all know, too, it's 3 games into a season. It goes all along. It's a marathon. Tony and I were talking about it before we started. football season goes by just like that. I can't believe we're there. I didn't snap my fingers. I don't know if I can snap left-handed. I can snap right-handed, but not. Yeah, like Thanos is right-handed, right? All right, so that's what I had to say about basketball. And the other thing was, last year I didn't like Anthony DeRuggi a lot. I didn't see what Mike White saw in him. Now I do. I love that guy right now. And again, it's not just because of what he's doing, scoring points. It's what he's doing everywhere else. And these guys are fun to watch. I enjoy it. All right, let us get to the Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. Like I said, you guys killed it on New England over Atlanta. I gave you a freebie there. I didn't even have a spread. I don't know if you can get the spreads Monday before because the Monday night game, I think you have to wait till then for them to throw the spreads out there. But maybe they're somewhere and I just look in the wrong place. Anyway, you guys took advantage of it. I think everybody got it right. They picked New England. It was 25-0. It was pathetic. I don't know what Atlanta, where they're headed. I mean, didn't they lose like 80-2 last week? And this game's terrible. So many of you qualified. I've got all your names all written down. And let's get to Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks for this week. All right, Gators -8.5 at Missouri. You been listening to me? There is no way I would take the Florida and give an 8.5 points. There is no way. I'm giving you this one, too. It's a freebie. Everybody should qualify on this one. Although you got to get both of them right. So, but I just don't see a way. I'm sorry. I'm just very pessimistic about Florida's chances in this game. The other category, most rushing yards, which will be really interesting considering Tyler Batty said 4 200-yard rushing games. Florida still is, even though their numbers are down from where they were, they're still rushing for like 150, 170, 180 yards in games. And but if Missouri tries to take the runaway like South Carolina, and Florida goes, well, we got to throw every down. So I don't know where that one's going. But those are the two categories in the Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. Florida -8.5 at Missouri. Most rushing yards, Florida or Missouri. All right, time to get to the Adams Ribco to go. Gator of the week, Adams Ribco to go. It's unbelievable the food they make over there. And the great thing for me is that I live right around the corner. Every time I go in there, by the time I get it home, it's still nice and piping hot. And there's nothing like their barbecue, and especially their ribs. Our Gator of the week. Now you probably think, "Oh, he's going to say a basketball player." It could be Castleton. It could be Drew. No, I'm looking at volleyball. Okay, I know that volleyball has struggled a little bit this year. They struggled early, but they still have a chance to win the conference, and I'll explain that in a minute. But I'm giving it to two Gators. So that's Gators of the week. The Adams Ribco to go Gators of the week. Marley Monceres. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing her name right. And Tara Cesar, probably not pronouncing her name right either. But both of them had double-doubles in their match against Auburn. Monceres had 39 assists and 10 digs. And Cesar had 12 kills and 12 digs. So great job by them. And look, here's the thing. They've got these 2 games against South Carolina. They need to win them both against South Carolina, Saturday at 4, Sunday at 2. And got to win those both. And then they play Kentucky in the last weekend of the season. Florida's 13-1. I think Mississippi State's 13-2, and Florida's 12-2. So Kentucky is got a game lead on them and a half-game lead on Mississippi State. But if they can beat Kentucky twice, they probably will win the conference. And that would be quite a feat. You know, that loss to, I think it was the third or second match they played against LSU that they lost. That one's probably sticks in Mary's craw. But you're going to have to beat Kentucky anyway, so go beat them. And that'll be next weekend, Thanksgiving weekend. I think it's a Friday, Saturday, so it's right after Thanksgiving. That'll be cool. Very cool. So they are, Marley and Tara are our Adams Ribco to go Gators of the week. Plural Gators of the week. Very nice. All right, it is time for this, that, and the other. It is, as always, presented by Dark Shackow Insurance, Ballyhoo Grill, and the Ironwood Golf Course. here live from the Shaq Allen Mercadante studios. We all want our local announcers to be homers. You know, you want them to get more excited when you score than when the other team scores. That's just part of the deal. Well, sometimes when I listen to these on Sirius, you'll get all these other games, you know, and you go, man, that guy's a little over the top. Well, you know, but you want your guy to be your guy. He's not doing a national broadcast. And I understand that. Certainly that's fine. And we saw this happen with Texas Tech and their announcers facing Iowa State. They got mean. They were really mean, and may have gone over the line. But when they started giving the names of every official working the game, I'm surprised they didn't give phone numbers and addresses too. But they were mad. They were saying the Big 12 wanted Iowa State to win the game. They crossed the line, in my opinion. And the sad thing is, they got to announce a 62-yard game-winning field goal at the end of the game. Why is it sad? Because of the other. The other being they were suspended from this last game of the year. Or not, I don't think it's the last game, but this week's game. They Big 12 said, you crossed the line. We can't have people criticizing officials that publicly, and you did it in a bad way, naming them all and everything like that. No, you're banned from this game. So if Texas Tech wins, I think they have Oklahoma this week too. Those poor guys won't be able to announce it. That'll probably break their hearts. That really is a punishment for them. Now, I will say this. If Texas Tech gets smoked by Oklahoma, then they'll say, I'm kind of glad I wasn't there. But this being you want homers, that being these guys went too far, and the other being now you don't have a game to broadcast this week. I would name them. I would give you their names, but I'm not going to do that because they did what I thought was really bad, given the names of all the officials. Look, anybody who wants to know who the officials are can look it up. It's not hard. You don't have to do that. That's mean, and that is way over the top. That is This, That, and the Other, presented by Dar Shackow Insurance, Ballyhoo, and Ironwood, here from the Shackow Mercadante studios. All right, it is time for the Hesser and Kipke Games of the Week. We always bring these to you on Friday. They're brought to you by Hesser and Kipke, a law firm based in the Hale Plantation, specializing in employment, workers' comp, and family law. You can visit their website at www.hklawfl.com or call Ken and Jennifer at 352-339-9920. Also, they bring you the Monday spreads, which we also love. All right, games of the week. The state game of the week to me is Florida State at Boston College. I know the game's not in state. That's not what it's. The game's involving state team. Just because it has a lot to do with it, what kind of mood FSU is going to be in when they come down to Gainesville. So I'm curious to see what happens. By the way, Boston College is a 2-point favorite. They got their quarterback back from injury, so that's probably why they're favored by 2. The SEC game of the week is Arkansas, Alabama. Even though the odds makers don't think it is, they've got Alabama as a 20.5-point favorite. I don't think they'll cover. I think Arkansas is too tough to let them cover. The national game of the week, Oregon at Utah. Big, huge game in the Pac-12. Utah, 3.5-point favorite over a team that is in the top 4 in the playoff picture. That's kind of strange, but it is what it is. The under-the-radar game, Wake Forest at Clemson. It's a big game for Wake, obviously. Clemson maybe could, just by spoiling somebody else's season, could salvage what they've had this year. It's been a rough year for them. And by the way, the Michigan-Oklahoma or Ohio State game, I didn't make that the game of the week, the national game of the week, because I think Oregon-Utah is really even more interesting. Plus, that game's an 18-point spread, too. By the way, some early spreads. Florida, 10-point favorite against FSU. Did they not get cable? I mean, come on. Have you watched this team play? Why do they keep making them favorites? It's just like I think they want them to lose. And Ohio State 6 over Michigan. Alabama 18.5 over Auburn. Penn State 2-point underdog at Michigan State. And Mississippi's a 2-point favorite at Mississippi State. So those are some early spreads. We'll get to those on Monday. When we do the Monday spreads, we'll see how much they've changed by what happens this weekend. That's going to do it. Thanks so much to Tony Barnhart. Don't forget, make sure you tune in on Monday. Doug Johnson, Noah Brindise reliving the Florida FSU game from 1997, one of the greatest games ever played. We'll have them on, so that'll be a lot of fun. And everybody have a good weekend. Try not to get too down, no matter what happens in that game Saturday. Just try to enjoy your weekend. I'm gonna make myself do that. Until Monday, this is Pat Dooley. I am deep way back, and I am out of here.